building an indie business in the center of venture capital. I am Alex Edmonds. People on this podcast, or on the internet, sorry. People on the internet call me Supreme Ramham, and this is the Building an Indie Business podcast recorded in the Indie Business Studio. Wow, that was a huge error, and it's very funny because I'm going to be talking about how I will be treating the podcast like a product, and immediately before I even say that, I mess up, which I'm not editing out. But yeah, I will start to treat this podcast more like a product. So I'm going to talk about why I want to do that, how I want to do that, and how I plan to do that. Really, like, what will that look like? So, yes, let's get into it. All right, so I want to treat the podcast more like a product. And the reason why is because the podcast is a product. But also, the podcast was something I started to get people to listen to me and then buy stuff from my side projects. So that really hasn't happened. But really what I want to do is I want to practice copywriting for smashing themes. And the podcast has a huge backlog. And technically, like, the episodes are products. So I can use the backlog of the podcast, take every episode and practice copywriting for that, and then use those copywriting skills that I learn from promoting the podcast and use that on smashing themes and, make money from smashing themes. So, yeah, I just want to practice copywriting basically, and I have this huge backlog of products that I can use to promote. Right now I'm reading a book. I think it's called like the Eloquence of Language or something like that. I closed the wrong tab. It's like 30 different things that people use to like make their writing more memorable. So I'm going to go through that this weekend and just have examples and take those examples and convert them and translate them into things that I can use to get people to click on my podcast episodes, basically. I'm also going to... What am I going to do? I'm going to take my LinkedIn post... I'm going to create a LinkedIn page for the podcast, which I've already created, and I've already started promoting stuff, and I'm going to use that to promote the episodes, basically. That's how I will be getting people to the podcast through LinkedIn. And, so I'm going to try to go viral on LinkedIn. That is the whole point of all of this. I'm going to, write better descriptions of the episodes and use them to get people to click on the podcast and get more listeners. More listeners means more people listening to the podcast, and that increases the pipeline to smashing themes, basically. And also like the improved quality of the podcast, like the perceived quality, that increases the perceived quality of smashing themes products, which helps the pipeline, basically. I'm just trying to build a better pipeline to smashing themes. Yes. So, what does that look like for people who listen to this podcast? That is a great question. So, I will be taking notes on episodes. Right now, the episodes are just things that come into my head, and I sometimes don't remember, like, some side point, like, not the main idea of the episode, but like the sub bullet points. I kind of forget those, so I should not forget those anymore. Yes, the episodes will be longer because, as you know, I don't take notes, so it's kind of just at my head. And when I take notes, I don't have to like memorize everything, and I won't forget things, and I'll even think of other things while I'm talking, and I can talk about subjects for um, longer episodes. Yes, and it's gonna be more focused. So it's going to be about e-commerce and um, things related to e-commerce. Like I will finish that book and do an episode on that book and how it relates to, copywriting and how to improve your writing through that, and how to improve like product descriptions or social media posts. So that relates to e-commerce in my mind, right? Yes. What else? It's basically just gonna be like, remember 2020 when I was stuck at home, not just like very focused on the podcast. It's gonna be like that. Um, it's still the e-commerce area. It's the e-commerce area 2.0. So if you remember, or if you're a new listener, back in 2020, I was stuck at home, of course, like everyone else, and I really focused on the podcast and improving the podcast. And episodes were like 20 minutes long. So I'm gonna make the podcast like that again. Um, you know, right, dude. I don't think the podcast has been great for a while now. The episodes won't be garbage, so there's nothing about domains that I'm gonna talk about unless I sell one. But I will do a 10-minute episode on selling that domain. So yeah, like I just talk about how I want 100 domains. That episode would be gone. The uptick in wanted dog traffic, that episode will still. I'll do something like that. What else do I think is garbage? Actually, pretty recently the podcast has been good. I've been trying to put more focus on making the content better. Celebrity Dogs, that's a 9-minute episode that I never did. I did one post like that, and that was garbage. Being a full-time maker is overrated. That episode, let me click on it. That was a 12-minute episode. That was a good episode to me. Because I needed to get that out of my head, and it's related to the maker industry. So, the podcast has been okay for 2024. Let's see. Oh, 2 p.m. on YouTube. That episode's gone. Actually, yeah, the podcast hasn't been bad recently. For 2024 at least. International SEO data. The time I promoted Wanted Dog on Bumble and Hinge. That was a great episode. Not gonna lie. That was just really funny to me. Oh, I have one. Wanted Dog on social media. That episode sucked. Now I'm just saying episodes that sucked. So that's something that won't happen in e-commerce era 2.0. I'm going to be more focused, more driven, more concise. Not concise, but I'm not going to talk about episodes. I'm not going to ramble. That's the main point of this product. It's the podcast. The quality will get better. You'll get more quality things. I'll get more listeners. I will be able to buy things with the money that I make because my podcast is better. Basically that's it. That's what I'm saying. This podcast is going to get better. The episodes are going to be better. The quality is going to be better. This is going to be the Building an Indie Business Podcast 2.0. Everything's going to be great. I'm really excited for the future of this podcast. I not recently, I guess, because I've been doing decent episodes, but I don't know. I think 2023 wasn't that great a year for the podcast, and me. I was kind of focused on the work. I wasn't able to put out like quality things for a while, and that bothers me right now. That's my thing. It bothers me. So I have a, I have maybe 10 episodes before this episode that I've recorded. Not all of them are great. I think that's the issue. And I just want to go back to having quality episodes. Quality BAIB podcast episodes. That's all I have to say for this episode. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day. Bye.